Right, I'm currently on the phone with Composition C. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview session. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hey, my name's Composition C. Thanks for having me. I'm a music producer, rapper, I'm an artist. I also play piano. Most of my beats or instrumentals that I have for my songs, I create myself. It kind of creates a full themed project versus the stereotypical way of hip hop. Kind of gives you more of an immersive experience. A lot of my songs are storytelling, oriented around a variety of topics. I also do social media and am a kind of a little techie behind the scenes. So
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, let's talk about that. Tell me about when this all started for you. When did you first kind of come in contact with music, and when did it kind of inspire you to participate?
So I actually was introduced to music from my grandpa, who he passed away last year, and he's the one when I was really young. He had a old like early 1900s upright grand piano in his living room, and he would, when I was little, he'd let me play on him and start really kind of lead me along. I never learned how to read sheet music. I still can't read sheet music. So it kind of was played all by ear and was kind of just, opening the door that way. And then we'd set up some percussion, with your pots and pans in the kitchen, and set up a tape recorder, old school recording. So that's actually where my first touches of music really happened. My dad was a guitar player. He played electric guitar. And my mom was a singer. So it's kind of, as time went on, there became more influences, but that's where it started.
Okay, so that's a great place to start. Tell me about how that kind of evolved into actually learning an instrument, if it did. And I only phrase it that way because since it sounds like you're doing a lot of your own production and stuff, it could have gone in the way of doing everything via VST in your DAW or whatever. So give me what the next building blocks were of actually learning music.
So I was kind of going through in my teenage years, was going through like a lot of people, just a really tough time. There's a lot of, your friends that pass away, or, things that go wrong. And I really started, I guess, diving into music there. There was a local college that it was open. They had open piano rooms. I would go into the piano rooms, and it kind of just became a vent session, for lack of better words. Like it just became I would go there specifically to go to one of the piano rooms, shut the door, and it was just me and the piano. And I'd have sometimes as time went on, I'd bring a camera with me and I'd just start playing. And because I couldn't read sheet music, I started drawing the piano keys and stuff and kind of came up with my own numbering system of what the keys were in notebooks, and kind of was drawing my chord progressions and my keys in the notebook so I could remember them. And then I would go back home and plug them into a VST or a DAW, using FL Studio primarily. And I would make my songs like that. So it was kind of a odd process, but that's really where it kicked off.
Sure, that's great. And I mean,
education.
However you can learn to harness that creativity, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and it's hard because a lot of places, especially with schools cutting back on funding in music and arts, which is a shame. You're kind of almost on your own in a way until you get to, unless you know someone or you pay for private lessons, you're kind of on your own anymore until you get to a college or university type class where they would formally teach you. I ended up taking an intro class to piano just so I could learn the keys and actually
actually have some type of education to be able to talk with people. And that substantially helped a lot. But primarily that, yeah, I still to this day can't read sheet music. So
Okay, so let's talk about the creative information for a second. You mentioned earlier that a part of what kind of separates you from the other genre, the other people in the genre that you're in, is your the concept that you have attached to your creativity. So tell me about that.
so my albums are so primarily as time went on, I've started creatively using samples from artists, and I've kind of started using more of my ear than my piano. I have a lot of songs I played on piano, and I did the percussion. I did play the piano. I used violin synths and stuff, and was trying to really expand creatively. But it started getting to the point where I was almost in a creative rut that I'd kind of buried myself in. There wasn't a lot more I could do with what I had without expanding to instruments. So I got an acoustic guitar and I got a flute, and I started really kind of playing around with what else can I do. And a lot of my albums, almost all of them, I've produced all the instrumentals for. Some are with samples, some are without. Some songs are either or, just depends. And the entire album is dedicated around an idea. So I had, for example, during the pandemic, I had an album that kind of just came to be. We went out to shoot a music video in Los Angeles for a song called Waves that I had. And originally it was a single with a really good singer locally in town, Papa Luke. And we went out there and shot the music video. But while I was on the plane there and coming back, I was making instrumentals, and it kind of became the album. And the album Lonely in LA was kind of just observing what LA was like during the pandemic. I mean, the curfew in LA was at 10 p.m. Everything was closed. At 10 p.m., literally everything, including the liquor store, closed. Crowds would go back home. So you're getting this almost like eyewitness. I'm very descriptive in the storytelling and where I'm talking about, and where, this isn't home. We're far away from home. There's a song on there called Far Away from Home. And it's really just taking all that into account, where when you go back and listen to it, there's details of that. There's details of it closing at 10 p.m., us at a bar or something, and really trying to capture that moment in time, which I think creatively comes a little different in the genre, because in the genre, primarily the rapper artist is using a beat that someone else created, and there's not really emotional attachment behind it other than what they hear. It's not like you spent the time or the energy to make the beat, and then on top of that, when you make the instrumental, you already have an idea of how it feels, what you're thinking about, why you made it. Maybe you're having a really bad night or a really good night, and you made that instrumental. That person doesn't have that backstory in this genre. There isn't a backstory of why it was made. They're completely separated from it. And I think it creates a way more of an immersive experience when listening, to hear all those details come together.
Yeah, it sounds like you're taking the approach that you're trying to encapsulate moments in time and put a feeling to it, and then explain that feeling in a musical setting, which, based on what you've said, in your mind kind of correlates to specific numbers. So in a way, you're kind of looking at the environment around you, assigning numbers to it, and then translating that into the music.
Yeah. It's really just a lot of it's observing or storytelling from my own personal life experiences or things that I'm going through. But yeah, you can definitely tell listening to it. The songs play. The songs, you can play them, we're kind of in this, obviously the Spotify streaming era, but a lot of my albums, they play straight through. You want to listen to them front to back. There's a story, there's a progression. And as the story moves on, there's different changes in the story, or things that you thought may have been happening are not going to happen that way, or maybe they change. So, it's it creates it creates the old school, song placement used to be really huge in the CD and vinyl and even cassette tape days. What was on side A, what was on side B, what order were they in? And I think I still try to use that to the best of my ability to create an album, or like I said, a more of a listening experience.
Yeah, a lot of that has kind of fallen to the wayside with the way that streaming works now. You can just randomize an entire artist's discography, and that kind of loses that translation.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in the hip hop genre, I mean, it's just something where you can, there's a lot of legendary albums or iconic albums that had some type of storytelling element, or had, something, had a theme or had something like that. And they generally around that time were CD vinyl oriented. Now a lot of places are going to release the single for the streaming services and drop the album later, so.
Sure. So, was that the last record you did, and you're working on new stuff now? Tell me what you're currently up to.
So my last album was The World's Changin', and world is spelled WE'RELD''S. And the idea behind that is that we are the world and the world is changing. And it's kind of just monitoring all these things and these hardships that are changing, and how I'm dealing with them, especially as a parent, as someone who's trying to keep things in line. There's so many facets to hardships and struggles that our generation and future generations are facing right now. As far as what I'm currently up to, I have an album called The Eagle and the Hummingbird that I'm currently making, and it's kind of a tribute album to my grandpa who passed away, who got me into music, and my grandma. My grandma she loves hummingbirds, and my grandpa was in the Air Force, so we kind of figured this oxymoronic or conflicting, contrasting title would be appropriate, and kind of encapsulate that. And my mom, who used to sing, is going to sing on the album. So we're really going to try to make it like a full circle, for kind of almost a legacy album, or a family multi-generation album. And there's also, on another side note, I've got a group that I actually met a couple guys at the Future of Artists Summit in Orlando a year and a half ago, who is we kind of started a group kind of unknowingly. I just performed in Minnesota about 2 weeks ago, and we had a lot of I was invited up there because a friend of mine, we recorded a punk song with a bunch of people on it, and he makes pop punk music, and I said I'd give it a shot, and it turned out really good. So we ran with it, and we performed it, and it got a lot of good. It was a crowd of about 50 or so people, and it went really well. And so we decided we're going to drop a group album together. Each member of the group makes completely different style of music, so it kind of becomes this. No matter what kind of music you'd like, you'd enjoy the show kind of deal. Knowing that there's people off and on stage. It's a lot of versatility, changing genres mid-show, each song basically is a different genre. So that's about it right now. Just trying to branch out, continue to grow, continue to change the music, just the music I make. I don't want to have 10 albums that sound the same. I think it's really, growth is natural in music.
Awesome. So, what are some of your favorite memories that you have from all the participation that you've had in music? What keeps you motivated?
Man, well, that's a good question, because as ironic as it is, I agree with Rick Rubin that art is the best art is when you make it for you. And so a lot of my motivation is just the experience in creating music. I've just always loved music. I've always had a connection with music. And for me to be able to channel energy, sometimes negative energy, into a positive output is therapeutic for one. And then secondly is that you would, I just really enjoyed the process and meeting the people involved. I've met some of my best friends, some great people through music. I've got to have great experiences. It's also really, it's really humbling when you make a song and you perform it live and it connects with the crowd. It's a really humbling experience to know that you've impacted them in that way, that they feel, they may really like that song, or they may really like what you said, or they may really connect, have a deeper meaning, understand what you're going through. It's a pretty euphoric feeling, to be honest, to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. All right. Well, where can people find you and check out your stuff?
So I'm currently on all major streaming platforms, Composition C, no spaces. If you Google me, I'll come right up on the first page. It may try to autocorrect you and say, "Are you searching for Composition?" You say no, and then I'll be the first page results for everything. On YouTube, Composition C, on social media, facebook.com/Composition C, and on Instagram, I'm Composition C Music, no spaces. On Instagram, I'm verified, so you'll be able to pick me out with the blue check mark.
Awesome. All right. So I always like to give the person that I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last words. So what's a message that you have that you think other people should hear?
So I'm going to quote the last song of my album, The World's Changing. And I want to tell everybody that if you're going through something right now, you're going through it, that life gets better someday. It might not be today, but another day, life gets better someday. Keep trucking.